Hey, welcome back to S&S Grills. I'm Ricer with Dead Broke BBQ. And today I'm doing a fantastic T-bone steak, and we're gonna put an extra little pop in that bite by making a blue cheese compound butter. The first thing that I did to prep this T-bone steak started last night. I did a salt brine on this 2-inch thick cut T-bone steak, and this weighed in just a little bit over 2.5 pounds. So I put a little over a half a teaspoon of kosher salt on both sides, and don't forget to add a little bit to the edge. Now the salt will pull a little bit of moisture out of this T-bone, and as it dissolves, it penetrates back into the fibers. And this guarantees to distribute that salt evenly throughout every single bite. Now after I got it all coated up, I put it back in the refrigerator and left it uncovered for 12 hours. And you can see that's when we're starting to get that nice, deep, dark, ruby red color. Now a T-bone has two separate cuts of meat. This is our tenderloin, and this side is our New York strip. And you can see right here, there's the bone that's separating them. Now from my experience, dealing with two different cuts of meat can be tricky. So whenever I do either a porterhouse or a T-bone, I pick one of them that I really want to concentrate on first. The tenderloin fillet, it's always going to be nice and tender, obviously, but on the New York strip side, I prefer to have this always at a medium rare because it just has a better chew. You start getting around that medium range, it can get a little tougher. So for this cook, I'm concentrating on the New York strip more than the tenderloin. But we still have a goal to hit this internal temperatures at a medium rare on both sides. Now the other prep that I did last night is I made up that blue cheese compound butter. Even if you only remotely like blue cheese, give this recipe a try because it adds a ton of flavor in every single bite. To make up that awesome blue cheese compound, I use 1 stick of softened butter, add in about 5 ounces of blue cheese crumbles and start stirring it up. Then take a heaping tablespoon of chopped up chives, or you can use scallions if you prefer. And then finally take some fresh ground black pepper and add that to taste. Now if you want this nice and creamy, you can put it in a food processor because that'll whip it up tight. Rip off some saran wrap and place that big glob right in the center. Cover it up and give it a good twist. Then I form up a nice little log and put it back in the refrigerator overnight. I told you, simple recipe, but tastes dang good. Now this T-bone's been sitting on my cutting board for about 2 hours. To me, it always seems that I get a much better cook compared to taking it straight out of the fridge and putting it in the grill. Now I'm reverse searing this, so we're gonna start off low and slow, so let's get our Slow N Sear Kettle fired up. To set up this low and slow cook on our Slow N Sear Kettle, I'm gonna use my dripping griddle pan. We have our Slow N Sear on the left-hand side, and our dripping griddle pan will go right on the right-hand side. And it fits nice and snug right on the bottom to make our cleanup a lot easier. I'll take and close off my bottom vent. The smoke hole we're gonna leave about 1/3 of the way open, and the same with the lid vent. We're gonna leave that 1/3 of the way open too. Get our easy spin grill grate on. I'm gonna be using my S&S 500 to monitor this cook today. It's got a little kickstand so you can stand right up on the shelf. And we'll just use this one as an ambient temperature probe, and we'll place it right about here. Now I'm not using the water reservoir today. We don't need it. And we'll take our T-bone and we're gonna place it right here because we're gonna use this fat cap kind of as a heat shield protectant against that straight heat onto this New York strip. And remember, we have 2 different cuts of meat with a bone running through the center of it. I'm gonna monitor this cook with 2 probes. Get it up through. And another reason why I have it set up this way, this bone can actually work as a wick. The heat will actually travel up the bone, and this end piece will end up being a little bit more overdone than what I want. So we're gonna take our probe and hit it right up through the center, kind of right about here. I'm not too close to the bone and I'm not too close to the edge, so we'll use this for the first one. Now I'll put in my second probe. And again, because of this bone, I don't want this end to get overdone, so we're gonna stick it in kind of right about here. That way we have a good measurement from left to right. And these probe placements should be pretty good for our low and slow cook. I have 25 lit charcoal briquettes in this chimney. We'll get them in on the Slow N Sear, pour that right kind of in the center of it. And you can see they're ashed over nice. I'm gonna toss in 1 little piece of post oak to give us some of that smoky flavor. and it's already starting to catch on fire. And remember, we're running indirect, so we want to put the lid with the vent over on the right-hand side. This way the heat will travel over the T-bone and out the vent. Now I'm going to run the Slow N Sear Kettle at 225 to 250 degrees. I'll be monitoring my SNS 500 till I reach an internal temperature of 80 degrees. Then we're going to give it a flip. I'm 30 minutes into this cook and we're reading on average of 80 degrees internal temperature on that T-bone steak. Let's give her a flip. Now we'll just end for end it, keeping this fillet towards the back still. Put the lid back on and we're going to run until we reach an internal temperature of 110 degrees. Probably take another half an hour. My next step is to fill up a chimney full of briquettes and get that lit so it's ready for the sear. I've reached an internal temperature of 110 degrees. Let's go ahead and check out this T-bone. But I'm going to use my SNS 100 to check some internal temps. I really like this beautiful smoky color that we're developing. We're right around 111 right here. Let's check the fillet. That's looking really good, about 110. Check back over on the New York strip and that's about 113. So we'll go ahead and pull this out and I'm gonna put it on the cutting board and we're gonna season it up for the sear. We're done with the SNS 500, so let's get all these probes out. We'll take out our easy spin grate because we want it to cool down so when we sear we can do the cold grate technique. Now first thing, we wanna get all the moisture off this steak because that is gonna hold back our sear a bit because the water and the moisture is gonna kind of fight that sear and we wanna make this one look pretty. Now for the finishing part of the seasoning on this, it's pretty simple. Add just a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil and swipe that across it. Get her in the nooks and crannies. Get it on the sides because there's nothing better than a little crisped up fat. And then just some coarse ground black pepper is all I'm adding. And I like pepper on steak, so we're gonna add a tad more. And then we're gonna repeat on the other side. This chimney is completely ashed over and screaming hot. It's time to get our sear on. Dump it right in the Slow N Sear. We wanna spread out these coals a little bit. Get our nice and cold grate put on, grab this beautiful cut, and we're gonna place it right on top in the middle with the bones right to the edge of the Slow N Sear. I'm squeezing it down, and we're gonna run this for 45 seconds and we'll spin it. Take off our lid. Okay, our 45 seconds is over. We'll spin it 180 degrees. Same thing. Oh yeah, we're starting to develop one already. That's what we want. Get this squished in. If you see that first sear, you might actually have to go 60 seconds, but I'm gonna just do another 45. Spin it around at 180 degrees and back on she goes. And here's our last turn, but we're gonna check with our SNS 100 to see what these temperatures look like inside it. Yeah, we're right around 118 degrees on the internal, so we're gonna flip it and do it in another 45 seconds. All right, there's our last 45 seconds. Oh yeah, that's got a good sear for sure. Now remember, this bone's a heat sink, so it's gonna be hot. We're gonna put this on the cutting board right on top of that incredible blue cheese compound butter. This T-bone is rested for 5 minutes and the cutting board's looking nice and juicy. You can even see the blue cheese compound butter starting to drool out. Now this side is our Tenderloin Fillet, and this is our New York strip, and this is the one that I wanna make sure is as close to medium rare as possible. Even if it's a little less done in the center, you're still going to have it more done on the outside. Let's go ahead and start slicing this off the bone. Here goes nothing. Oh yeah, that is a nice medium rare. You can see that it's wall-to-wall pink. We'll go ahead and slice it right here. Now, let's get off our fillet. But I think we crushed a medium rare on this one too. Oh yeah, for sure. It's a little bit more done on the outside, but overall, this could be perfect. So what am I waiting for? Let's try a slice of the New York strip first. Gotta dabby through this. Awesome flavor. I got a nice little pop in the mouth from that blue cheese. Now we'll check our fillet, and this part's gonna be super tender. That's too big of a piece for me to bite. I wanna take it all, but just take a look at that. This is gonna be good. Hands down, perfect flavor in this T-bone, along with the Slow N Sear Kettle did a bang up job. You're gonna be a little bit more rare towards the bone, but if you want yours a little bit more done than this one, run that cold grate technique for 60 seconds and not 45. But you can see the blue cheese on the bottom. It's delicious, trust me. Try it. Now everything in this video will be in the description below. There'll even be a link where you can get a printout of this complete T-bone recipe. Now I appreciate you watching, but remember, 2 zones are better than 1.